Hey everyone. So today I'm going to talk about how to use Eurorack with your Digitakt. I've got a basic synth voice set up here in my Tip Top Audio Happy Ending kit. I'll go through really briefly what each of these modules are and show you how you can get everything set up. So first of all, you're going to need something to change Midi to CV to control voltage. And there's a bunch of different ways you could do that. There's a bunch of different modules and devices that can do it. I'm going to be using the Hexinverter Mutant Brain. Another option is CVOCD. This is the same exact thing as the Mutant Brain. It's just in a box rather than in a Eurorack module. So if you don't want to use up some valuable HP, you could get one of these. But if you want something that's self-contained and you don't need extra power, you could get a Hexinverter Mutant Brain. I also did some experiments with my Korg SQ64 and found that this actually can be used as a MIDI to CV converter. And it worked just as well as using the Mutant Brain or CVOCD. So this is a great option as well. You can buy the Hexinverter on Perfect Circuit's website. I'll put a link in the description. There's also a bunch of other options too. So, click through that affiliate link, throw me a tip, and pick something that works for you. So ever since I let people know that I was using the Mutant Brain, a lot of people have asked me how I set it up. I'm going to go through a really basic setup right now and show you how to load up a Sysex file onto it. I'll probably do a full tutorial at some point. So if you want to know more in depth about the Mutant Brain, make sure to subscribe to my channel. But let's head on over to the computer. So this is the website to create Sysex files. It's called Mutant Brain Surgery. And so here you have tons and tons of options. And this can be super confusing at first, but once you get into it, it's pretty intuitive. So first of all, we're going to enable an input. And I'm going to go ahead and set it to channel 1. The no priority is basically just because this only supports a monosynth, so one note. So if two notes are played, it needs to decide which ones it's going to play. So if you were to be playing on a keyboard and you were to play two notes at the same time, this would give the priority to the high note. Since we're using a sequencer and we know that it only takes one note, that's probably never going to come up. And so, you could choose the last note, lowest note, cycles, whatever, but I'm just going to leave it there. So min note, max note, velocities, pitch bends. I'm just going to leave all that stuff as it is. Now you can do up to 4 inputs. For this exercise, I'm only going to do the first one. Now we have our CV outputs, and here's where it gets interesting. So you have a lot of different options. So the first one, we of course want it to be directed from our input 1. We want the notes that are going in, we want those coming out. And we want them on volts per octave because that's what Eurorack talks in. We don't want it to transpose, but if you did for any reason, you could set it there. And these are going to be grayed out because they don't apply for this input note 1. So there, we're all set for our first pitch note to come out. But now we're going to need a gate. So we're going to go down here and do note input 1. So it's going to be all on channel 1. The note put event is the first note on. You can change these. And I'm just going to leave it like that. You can set delays, re-triggers, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to set it to gate. So the difference between trigger and a gate would be if it's set to trigger, then it'll just give it like a burst, like a drum beat or something. Since the Digitakt, you can actually control the length of notes, we're going to go ahead and set that to gate. All right, so this is basically all you need to get started. Let's add just a couple of extra features because I want to show what they're like. On these CV outputs, you only get 4 of them, so you use them wisely. But let's go over here. Notice you can set any MIDI CC number or pitch bend or anything like that. You can do a fixed voltage. Let's go MIDI CC. Let's do channel 1. And you can choose any number you want. Since we're on the Digitakt, let's just set it to something like 74 was the frequency cutoff of the example that I did last time. So let's just set that, and then we're going to set our range. Let's leave it at 5 volts. And this way we can come out of CVB, and we'll set in our Digitakt, we'll set number 74 so we can control it, and we'll plug that into the filter cutoff so I can show you how you can control modulation. So right there, this is a nice basic setup. We're of course not even using a couple of the CV outputs. You could use those, you'd set them to different CC values, or you could just do an entire other voice. And all of these gates, I mean, typically what I do is some sort of variation on the clock, like a clock division or something. But you have tons of choices there too. So dive in, play around with those things, set it up however you want. And when you're done, you just click on the bottom, give me that Sysex file, and it brings it up so you can download it. So I'm going to go Eurorack demonstration, and I'll just download it to my downloads. There we go, and it's all set. Now to load it up to the Mutant Brain, let's head back, unplug from my Digitakt, and plug it into this Midi Flex 4. This is what I use to connect to Midi from my computer. For a Mac, Sysex Librarian was the one that was recommended by Hexinverter, so that's what we're going to use. So once you've got it in your Sysex Librarian, you need to set the output destination. So I'm using my Midi Flex 4 port 1, so that's where it goes. And then when you hit play, you'll see the lights light up on the Mutant Brain. And there we go. It's that easy. It goes right in. All right, so let's head back over to the Digitakt. I'm going to unplug from my Midi Flex, and we'll go Midi out, and we'll wire up our basic synth voice. So I'll have blue be the volts per octave. We'll go from A into volts per octave of my VCO here, and we'll send that pulse wave out into my quad VCA, and we'll go out here and into audio in. Now we need to do our gate, which we chose as gate number 1, and that's going to go to trigger the quadrant. That's going to come out and into our CV of the quad VCA. And there we go. So now that we're in here, we need to set our channel to 1. There we go. And now we're controlling our anyway, that's that. So that's that part of it. And then of course we set up gate number 2 as a CC value. So I'm going to plug that into my frequency control. And now we can go to the filter. On the amp page, you can select, just like in the last video where I was explaining MIDI, on the amp page, you can select the different CC value, and on the filter page, that's where you can control how that's where you can control how much of it. So let's set this one to, I think we set it to 74, and then we'll come over here and we'll turn that on. So now this value is controlling number 74. Oops, I'm sorry. I plugged this into the wrong one. We used letter B. Now you got to remember it goes relative to where this is. So if we set it all the way down, you won't hear it. have to go up a little bit. It's just like, it's not quite as smooth. But it works, and basically you can control 3 different modulation sources and 1 voice for 1 Hexinverter. You could, of course, if you wanted to, use more than just the Hexinverter. You could use 2 or whatever. But that's how you set it up. Let's program in a little sequence. Let's set the LFO destination for So there you go. That's how you use the Digitakt with Eurorack. It's a great sequencer. All you need is a Midi to CV converter. So I hope you found this video helpful. Once again, thanks so much Perfect Circuit for making this video series happen. If you are thinking about buying a Midi to CV converter, check out their website. They got tons of stuff. Please click through the affiliate link so I get a little tip. I'd really appreciate it. It's a great way to support my channel at no additional cost to you. If you want to see more tutorials on things like the Hexinverter Mutant Brain, make sure to subscribe. I'm going to do an in-depth tutorial about how to set up your Sysex files and all the different options at some point. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.